I grew up playing upright. I grew up first playing classical and then jazz. I only came to rock third, and that's where I stayed. And the first electric bass I remember very well, I got an Ampeg baby bass. It's an upright bass, for those who don't know. Upright bass, Latin players still use it. It sounds wonderful for Latin. I was doing club dates in Rochester and still going to school, and I went to see a band, a jazz band that had come to town from New York, and the bass player was playing a Fender bass, Fender Precision. I had never even seen one, or never paid attention. I was a college kid playing classical music. And the kid I went up to him afterwards and said, "What's that bass? What do you call that? Where can I get that?" And he said to me, "Go to New York City, go to a certain store in the village, Dan Armstrong music store." And this is the crucial thing. He said, "Don't get a new one, get a used one." And I did exactly what he said. I went to New York, slept in Grand Central Station, and in the morning I was at Dan Armstrong, and there on the wall was a 50s Fender Precision for $180, exactly like he said. I didn't try it, I just took it, took the train back to Rochester, and I played that bass from then on in Rochester, and by blind luck I was perfectly suited to do my first record sessions because I had the right bass. Who knew? I've been playing Music Man since I think the late 70s, just not too long after they started making them. I took it to a record session and I loved it. And it had more lows than I had available to me before. You can roll off the lows, but it had them, whereas the Precision really didn't have that so much. So that was it for the Precision. I didn't play it again really on a record. And it would have been about late 70s, because shortly after that I did the John Lennon sessions for Double Fantasy. And I remember that's when I discovered the dampers that were built in those days, and now are again, not in this one, but it's much more versatile. And in the studio world that I've been living in, versatile is a really good thing. Just the drums, the track starts to come together, and the drums are really heavy and low, and competing with that with a lot of low end just doesn't work. The bass is going to lose to the drums every time. So I'll just bring out the mids a little, and maybe even roll back the lows. In a more important way that comes up every day, I do sound check in a club or a hall or an arena, or outdoors, and they're all different sounding. In a hall, especially the halls that King Crimson plays on, they're very reverberant, and they make the low ends just kind of swoop around. I'll roll the lows back, I'll roll the mids back on. Frankly, because I started playing Music Mans when there was no mid-range control, I tend to turn the mid-range off for that old sound. But then it's there when I want it. So in a hall, I'll bring the mid-range up to a sound that I would never want on the record, but it's what I need to have people in the audience hear the notes I'm playing, and have the front of house engineer not have to push the bass way up, because they don't want to do that. I got my 5-string in about 88, 89. I don't think of myself as a proponent of 5 strings. And in fact, the last year with King Crimson, I went back to 4 strings. But often there's that low D in the piece, or a low C, or a low B, and you want to have it. And then some styles of music really completely take place way down low. So I certainly want to have a 5-string available. Let's say I'm going in to do some album and I can only bring one bass. Of course I'm going to bring a 5-string, so I can do anything that presents itself.